Hi, everybody. Joe Chaffee, FiOS 1 News, Long Island, and FiOS 1 News, New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley.
It's not that we find anything particularly funny. We're just two happy folks tonight.
It's, it's a Monday. There's nothing we can do about it, so we might as well stay in a good mood.
All right. So, as far as overnight into tomorrow morning, Joe, I got to tell you, it's a race between the moisture that's coming in from the west, and I'm going to bring up the radar here. So give me 1 second. Let me just freshen it up. We'll bring up the tight radar view. Get going with this.
The man has so many different things to bring up,
and
so little time to do it.
Exactly. So, kind of looks really weird with this radar. If you look at it, that arc, it's not something you see very often. I don't know if that's just an accident or just an illusion.
Well,
it's sort of like we have two warm fronts here.
Yeah, like a looping, leading warm frontal edge, but the actual warm front is still back over into central Pennsylvania. It was odd during our evening shows showing the radar and showing this very distinct, it looked like a very robust line, except that the air is so dry that...
Yeah, a lot of that stuff didn't reach the ground, and what did fell as sleet.
Right.
Which was a little odd, too. Now that second area is blossoming and moving across, so it's basically a race to get that while temperatures are still cold enough. And actually, Joe, I do have the current temperatures, and the warm front is very evident. The purple area is where we've got these winter weather advisories, and I think you'll agree with me. This is not about how much falls. It's about how much, what falls when temperatures are below 32 that slickens up the ground. It's not really going to be. It's not like somebody's getting 3 or 4 inches of snow and sleet. It's just a coating to whatever it is, and it could slicken up roadways.
Well, the thing is that we've had two previous similar shots. One on Christmas Eve morning. I think last Monday we had something similar to this, where we had again an initial shot of snow or sleet that changed over. The thing that makes this a bit tricky is that today temperatures were so very cold, the ground is very cold.
Right.
So this time around, whatever falls may not necessarily melt on the main drags initially, and they may be just a thin coating, but on the other hand, that sometimes is the trickiest to drive in when you have that thin coating. I do hope that the local authorities, treated or...
Well, they did brine. I was out a little earlier. I noticed the roads here.
Well, they brine down here where we are in Lower Westchester, but Lower Westchester is not in the advisory. It's not as critical as places up to the north.
Well, meanwhile, by the way, look at the warm front, just how evident it is, where it's it's at 30 in parts of west central Pennsylvania. In westernmost Pennsylvania, it's in the upper 40s and low 50s. And in Ohio, it's in the 50s to even some low 60s showing up. Down near Cincinnati, it looks like it's about 63. No, I'm sorry, 57 in Cincinnati. I can't see what that is.
And it's going to be so short-lived. Let's say you stick your head out the window, or you look out the window at 2:30 in the morning, and it's now beginning to snow. You may get snow for about an hour.
And then
you may get like a little bit of ice for about an hour. And then all of a sudden, as you just mentioned, it's all gone. In another hour, bang, it's all over to rain because the temperatures are warming up so rapidly.
Look at these numbers at 9 o'clock, the 9 o'clock hour at night with temperatures in the 60s across Kentucky. This warm air, this very warm air that's there, also contrasts to 30s and 40s when you go back into Virginia, North Carolina. It's clear where the warm front is.
And I'm
going to bring that latest surface map up.
And remember what we were talking about last Friday is the fact that because it has been such the snow has been so little in the Northeast, there really isn't all that much in the way of cold air damming. Usually you say to yourself, will the warm front get through here? I don't think the warm front will have very much of a problem getting through, at least in this.
Yeah, we're not really dealing with an onshore flow ahead of it as well, so that should get it through here. But you see back to the west, it's almost like a pinwheel of fronts. With this, the warm front that's to our west. You got this cold front that's just past Chicago, but the very cold air that's beginning to set up is with a second front that's back in through North Dakota, and when you go up into Canada from here. Here you start to see temperatures down in the single digits, and then you go below zero, and then you start to getting to double digits below zero. And that cold air is going to gradually spread southeastward across the Great Lakes, the northern Great Lakes, and come into the northeast and mid-Atlantic states late this week. I think it actually could get fairly cold here, particularly Friday and Saturday.
Right.
This could be one of those situations where you get some weird, you get some below zero readings up in upstate New York, and some double-digit below zero readings up near the Canadian border.
Right.
And we see temperatures down here in the teens to near 20
and that
as it drains southward.
And that cold air is going to play a very significant role in what may very well happen here on Sunday. And Joe, I don't know, I shake my head sometimes. I did a little tour on the internet of some Facebook pages and some weather pages, and already you can hear the beats, the thumping getting louder and louder about this is it, here it is. We're going to break the snow drought finally. Well, maybe, but then again, maybe not.
If you want to go, if it's all about context, okay? And I think, I think we certainly aim to give everybody a sense of context here, okay? When we look at weather going forward, you only see these sites, you only see a lot of these places pump up their posts only when there's some kind of threat on the page, and you don't hear from them during the regular day-to-day weather, which is how things, when things are just kind of normal 90% of the time. And so they'll put something up that's written in a way that implies the disaster is on the way.
No, you know what?
And it drives. It's very difficult to fight against when you're trying to just basically paint a picture of what you think is going to happen.
You see a site, for example, that will show you for example, in this case, the 12Z operational GFS from earlier today, indicating or suggesting that there could be a lot of snow. I'm not even going to put a number on it, but just a lot of snow. They put up the page, they put up the map, and then they say, "This is not a forecast."
Then why are you putting up the map?
Why are you putting?
Why are you wasting my time?
Yeah,
that's the thing I get at it. So in terms of context, folks, if you watch my YouTube show tonight, and if you watch any of the stuff that I did over the weekend, it's all about what's going on in the upper air, and I think it's really very simple. It really boils down to, in my view, we've got a split flow. You've got, when we talk about a split flow, we basically are talking about two active jets. We have a northern stream that is, if you look, I'm going to bring up a closer picture because I think we could see it better on the U.S. And you know what? I'm going to draw. Can I draw?
Sure.
Okay, so let's draw.
Get your crayon out.
Quick straw. Well, here it is. I have already actually, kind of pre-drew this from earlier, and this was the GFS from earlier. When we say a split flow, folks, and give me 1 second, let me bring the paint box up so you guys can see it. So when we talk about a split flow, we're talking about two main streams of air moving from one place to another. And we have two jets that are going to be obvious. There's the northern jet part of the jet stream that's coming down from Canada across the Great Lakes and into New England. And that is bringing down some very cold air out of Canada into the northeast and mid-Atlantic states. And it might actually bleed down further south into the Carolinas. Then at the same time, you've got this active southern branch of the jet stream that's shooting weather systems from across the Pacific that are coming into Southern California, riding across the southern tier. And it's it's actually a question of the two streams, if they get together, which they may not.
Right.
And if they don't get together, then how suppressed is the northern part of the jet? Is it going to suppress the southern part to the point where there would be no impact here?
Right.
Just like what happened back in December when the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, the interior southeast U.S. got the big snowstorm, but the northern edge of the snow never got further north than northern Delaware. So it's kind of the same thing here. This northern jet, is it going to suppress or is it going to lift up that southern stream energy? It's really that simple. Right. And frankly, we've got all we're going to be doing between now and at least late Wednesday and possibly even into early Thursday is further north, further south. More phased, less phased. It's here, it's not here. So why are we even like, that's all that's going to happen, okay? I can show you right now. We can just go back to, I happen to look, I don't know if you looked at the, because you know, we just don't have enough models to look at. But I don't know if you happen to catch the the parallel GFS from late this afternoon. Okay, so it went from being, you know, it went from being suppressed on the 12Z run. So now when we move it along, the 18Z run is actually less suppressed. So it came back to the north.
Right.
This is all we're going to be doing for the next 2 days, folks. It's really kind of a waste of time in a sense, in my view. Why don't we just wait till we get to later Wednesday and Thursday? By then, I think we'll probably be in a position where models will be close enough to figure out whether we're going to get something or not. And once we get that figured out, then we can decide, okay, how much you're not going to get and how much am I going to get.
Well, 3.5 days. I mean, that's the general.
That's simple.
Anything that comes on shore on the West Coast will take about 3.5 days to make it all the way to the eastern seaboard, and 3.5 days from the quote event, which would be late Wednesday, early Thursday. Finally, we'll be able to put more data into the supercomputer runs and have the numbers come out and give us a better idea, and it will get progressively better as we move on through Thursday and Friday and into the start of the weekend as to where exactly the storm track is going to be and where exactly the northern periphery of the precipitation is going to be. If you, and again, if you look at the operational model, the GFS, the one that came out, for example, earlier this afternoon, gave us a rather significant snowfall, and yet when you look at the ensembles,
right, they were more suppressed,
much more suppressed. Same thing with the European. The European has not had a very good season so far. It has it's not been the king as it has been in previous years or whatever, but still
it's lost that mantle a long time ago. But go on.
The king today abdicated from snow, basically, and whereas the GFS was saying it's going to be a real big thing, the European said, well, maybe not.
Well, again, it's a matter of the timing of those short waves in the north. You've got these troughs swinging around in the north. You've got the southern stream, and every model run times everything out differently. What you hope happens is as you get closer and closer to what the time frame is for an event, which would be probably Sunday, that the timing errors become smaller and smaller, and you can start to really figure out where this is all going to go.
And as I mentioned, it's a silly analogy, but the Price is Right analogy with the big wheel,
right?
Where you see these contestants, they spin the big wheel, they're trying to get $1 on the wheel to get all that money. Well, let's say the GFS today spun the big wheel, it hit $1, but meantime, other models were more in the green sector, and if you look at the ensemble, they were not even anywhere near the $1 of the green sector, and yet you have so many of these websites and so many of these Facebook pages saying, latching on to that one singular spin, the $1 spin of the GFS today, and saying big storm, big storm.
Yeah. Well, they're not doing real weather. They just aren't. One of the things I noticed about the long range show, I think, is really, really important. You know, we've been talking about the fact that in the Pacific we've had this sort of fire hose straight line jet stream, and it seems like every single day we keep chipping away at that notion, and it looks to me, you know, back a couple of days ago, it looked like we were going to go into this, you know, fire hose west-east flow for next week for a handful of days at least. But now I'm starting to think that that's not going to happen. There's much more of a northern jet in place in Canada. The flow in the Pacific, you're getting, you don't have this unrelenting straight flow into the west coast anymore. You've got some troughs and ridges along the way in the middle that are interrupting the straight line flow. So I'm starting to wonder whether the general trend is, you know, this whole idea that we were going to keep trending, you know, step by step, colder in the long haul. I'm thinking that that's a real possibility here.
Well, I was wondering why. I was scratching my head. And actually, I should have read the discussion, because it does come with a discussion. The CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, actually for especially the 8 to 14 day outlook are trending back toward rather warm conditions across the entire continent.
Well, I wonder. Well, that I think is probably due to the fact that when was that the one that was that out today, or was that out back over the weekend?
It's today.
So if they were looking at stuff, from earlier this weekend, there were some model runs, including the European, that had this kind of straight line, the Pacific straight line thing for next. Right. That would 8 to 14 day would be next week.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm saying that I'm not seeing that, Joe. I'm not seeing that on the GFS, and I'm not even seeing it on the European either. That we're seeing, this sort of unrelenting Pacific flow coming into the West Coast. It looks to me, if you look on the European today, even the Europeans got this, ridge up to the west with this flow that comes from northern Canada. It's hard for me to envision how it's going to be warm every day next week with a flow like this.
Right,
this is not a warm flow.
As you pointed
it's not
out,
bitter, but it's not warm.
As you pointed out earlier, a few minutes ago, I mean, it is very, very cold up in that neck of the woods. The Great Slave Lake, for example.
Yes.
I mean, and if the flow is coming down from there, how could it possibly? I know about modification, but to try to modify it to the point where it's near or above normal by the time that air gets here, that's a little difficult.
It would seem to me. I mean, look, we're not talking about icebox cold, huge anomalies of -20 or -30, but I think it could be at the it may wind up being seasonal or a bit below normal. And remember, if you're a snow lover, you don't want it too. You don't want an overpowering Arctic dump coming down, because that overwhelms everything, and you get everything suppressed to the south. So, but it's I find whatever the winter weather is going forward, I find it always, and to me, the fun part is really just watching it all play out and watching it all evolve.
Yeah.
That's why I can't get wrapped up, in all the long range nonsense that's out there, and people are already talking about March and February. Oh, come on, stop!
We can't even
Just
try to figure out exactly what's going to happen less than a week from now, and we're talking about February and March. But it is going to be for the first time. I will say this: I'm not supporting those who are promoting Sunday, but it is, after all, probably the most noteworthy thing that they've had to look at and hope for since mid-November, at least in this area. And we'll only see how things progress over the next.
I got my buddy Jason Smith from across the pond there. You've got over in Europe. We were talking about this on my YouTube channel tonight on my YouTube show. And why don't we bring up Europe, because this is really the whole polar vortex split stuff is really playing out on the other side. And
is this the mini beast from the east? Or?
Well.
Oh wow!
That's crazy. But I'm just gonna. I want to just get let's get at least the GFS up, because we can take a look at the whole precip thing here going forward. Now let me go backwards here. So we've got right now. There's this storm that's coming down from the North Sea that's dropping southward. So we're looking at fairly sizable snows in Germany and in Poland. And also another system down in the southern Mediterranean, swinging some snows up toward the Black Sea. But as we go through time, Joe, with this flow from the Arctic regions and from Greenland, this upper high that's been over England and Ireland is breaking down, and gradually they're going to get into this really cold flow. It's going to take another week to 10 days to play out, but it gets cold and snowy here in England and Ireland as we get toward the latter part of next week and beyond. So I think they're going to have their chances there with some winter weather in Western Europe. Right now, it's been more in Central and Southern Europe. This is going to be more in Western Europe.
Ireland and the UK.
Yes. Look at this upper air. I mean, this is really. The deep trough Siberia down into the Mediterranean, but you see that the ridge that's in Western Europe and near England, once that breaks down, it starts to allow these troughs to drop down from the north, and they begin to take their toll on the upper high. It just weaken. It keeps trying to come back, but each comeback is weaker. Then finally, it's gone around the 16th, 17th, and you get these, this very strong trough that drops down from the north, and one after another.
Yeah.
So Jason, be patient, but your snow is coming. You just got to get rid of that ridge that's over you and has been over you for quite a while. The air must be pretty stagnant there with that pattern the way it is. There we go. Here we go.
Oh, there we are.
Yes. Just trying to run through a couple of posts. Dan Kirby needs 25. Told me that he needs 25 days of sunshine straight in order to get the soil moisture content where he is in the Blue Ridge Mountains with all the rain they've had there of over 100 inches. 25 days of straight days of sunshine, and just to get the soil moisture content back down to normal.
Wow. Well, they ain't going to get 25 straight days of sunshine.
No. Let's see. Okay, so Bob Mason has already decided that he's using the two words together, Joe. You see the two words I'm looking at?
Snow, storm.
Right,
yes.
Okay. No, not yet. All right? That's not a word that you use 5 or 6 days out.
And
at
what
least
also gets me is that there are some people, even on the broadcast airwaves, that will show you what the European or the GFS is predicting in terms of snow amounts. Again, 5, 6, 7 days out. It's absurd.
Well, considering the fact that 3 days ago it had over 30 inches for my house.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Why are you doing that? It gives no context, and it absolutely shows. It tells you nothing. There's no. It doesn't work.
Right.
Very simply. So, how many storms have you seen in the model's long range? I'll be generous. 10 days to day 10 to day 16. How many major storms that models have shown from day 10 to day 16 have panned out?
There's only one in my mind.
Which one?
Superstorm 93.
That's it.
That's it.
And I think you could probably, and I don't even know in 93, did we even have it going out? Were we able to even see out to 3? I don't think we were able to see beyond 168 at that point.
No, I think 10,
you remember?
10 days or something. I think that was
the limit.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked me this question today. I think it was Scott Briller asked me about the blizzard forecasting going into the blizzard of 96.
Oh.
And we had so many fewer models at the time. Okay, we really just didn't have it. We had the GFS, and I think it went out to 240 hours. I think we had the European that maybe went out to about 168. It was just like starting, and we got it on paper. It's not like we went on a computer screen and looked at it. We had it on a fax machine on paper. Okay, I think that was another one, at least for me. It kind of locked on to the long range, and you saw it there, and that was another time where it was fairly consistent, except when it cut everything in half one run before, and then brought it right back.
We had a model. I think it was the AVN,
the old aviation model.
We called it the Spectral, the 60-hour.
Right.
What did you used to say? Don't get sour. It's
the 60 hour, or 72, or the 84 hour.
Friday afternoon. It was the storm hit on a Sunday morning. Or Sunday afternoon, and on Friday afternoon, that 60-hour prog had the storm missing us, completely missing our area, and even there was the NGM, the old NGM run, going out to 48 hours later that night. The 0Z run was still somewhat uncertain. There were some uncertainties, and I put on my 7-day. I was working at News 12 Westchester on my 7-day outlook for Sunday and Monday. I said the jury is still out, but then the very next day, the 12Z on Saturday, all the models suddenly had come into place, and by the time we got to late Saturday and Saturday night, you were beginning to hear 1 to 2 feet for accumulations being bandied about.
It was an interesting. There's a lot of stories, and yes, Scott Briller, Joe and I were friends in 1996, and actually we go back to 1979. So we've known each other for the 17 years that we waited for the blizzard of 96.
Right. And it finally happened. It finally came.
And after that winter, the next 4 winters were, for snow lovers, were horrible. Horrible. That's why I get really upset with temper tantrum throwers who haven't seen a subpar year for the last 6 years. You know, they don't realize that when Joe and I went to school and walked 4 miles both ways with no shoes on, we were able to do it with no snow on the ground because most of the time, most winters were, you know, kind of take what's happened so far and just magnify it out for another 2.5 months. And that was the whole winter. You were lucky if you got 1 or 2 snow events, and that was it. In my day, in our day.
I remember the blizzard of April. Yes, you heard right. April 6, 1982. We did have a blizzard, believe it or not. First day of the baseball season was shut down at Yankee Stadium. They had like a foot of snow. And then the following winter, there was a storm in January of 83. And they were all saying, they being and all of us, the forecasters were saying, that it looked like very much like a repeat of what we were going to get, or what we had in April of 82. And it turned out it was totally wrong. And hardly anything fell. We called that the Phantom Blizzard. And then like a couple of weeks...
I was not here for these things.
Yeah, and then about 2-3 weeks later, we had the megalopolitan storm, 1 to 2 feet of snow from Washington all the way to Boston. And that storm, that too was like, as one of my professors used to say, it was like playing pool with egg-shaped balls. It looked like it was going to be a massive storm, and then all of a sudden, the morning of the event, the models were taking it all away. And in fact, the National Weather Service in Boston and the National Weather Service in Albany actually pulled down all of their winter advisories because they thought the storm was going to take a track further south.
And how wrong were they?
6 hours or 8 hours later, all of a sudden, like, hey guys, we better put it all back up again. It's been incredible. It's been an incredible run.
Well, you know what? There's more fun ahead of us. So we're going to leave it at that, folks. We're coming up on the top of the hour. So Fios 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey for me.
Fios 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley for me. I'm going to get a haircut tomorrow. So
get them all cut.
We'll try to. Well,
you know, maybe you dye the color in just perfectly. Your colorist. You know, I would think the relationship that you must have with your colorist is just absolutely sacred.
Well, would I color it this color? Or is this a frosted color? You know,
no.
There's some people in their 20s who actually wish for hair this color. So
it's marvelous. It
whatever.
Really is.
Marvelous.
All right. Well, anyway, we've had our fun for tonight, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
We haven't yet gotten a date with Dr. Cohen yet.
No, I'm going to, you know, I actually, I'm going to email him right now. Okay. So have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.